And we are live. Fanboy Modeling School. Hello and welcome to the Fanboy Modeling School. I am the Fat Mantis, now in HD. I'm here with my man
Steve, real name no gimmicks, also in HD. How the hell are you?
I am killing it. We are here on the Fanboy Modeling School, which you can only find on the Fight Juice Online Network. If you aren't listening to us, well, then there's something seriously wrong with you. And what are you doing here? Also, you can find our amazing, sweet, very sexy talents separately on different shows on Riz Radio over on Live 365. Now let's do this.
Yeah, let's keep our sexy talents.
Oh shit, it's Lo. What up, Lo?
What up, Lo?
What's up?
Brother, I literally clicked out the screen for a second while we were waiting for the show to start.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized what my honorable mention is, man. It's going to be a banger.
Okay.
Absolute banger, man. How the hell are you, brother?
I'm good. Well, I thought you were going to go into the honorable mention.
Oh, no. I thought, we usually shoot shit.
Okay.
Shit shooting is
shit
what
has been shot. Shit has been shot. Whatever. We work hard and then we die young and all sorts of fun shit. In between that, we do some streams.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people might say last people standing, right? Real streamers in the house stand up, right?
Oh, absolutely. When the apocalypse comes, I'm going out in a stream.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be live on Fanboy. Like, well, Luke's coming. Not talking to anyone. Not talking to anyone.
I'm going to be asking for your spoons when the apocalypse is happening. We've got a wonderful, crazy show. You know what's happening, though? It was really hard for me to find enough subjects for tonight that are political.
That are political or aren't?
That aren't political. That aren't blatantly either you're MAGA or you're a Biden tard. And so it's I'm feeling that's all news is when you Google top stories, when you look at anything, and that's increasingly what it's going to be as we come closer to November.
Yeah, I foresee a lot of fanboys after dark coming up in our near future, right?
I like that.
Possibly,
I feel like we haven't done one in a while.
We haven't done one in a while, and possibly a lot more stuff on Kick and maybe Rumble, considering the less than generous response that the YouTube algorithm could have if you say or sound like you're endorsing a certain candidate.
Right.
It's a sad state of affairs, man. Lo says, I hope we all young together and naked and a messy, fiery display of defiance to the man.
That is certainly. I'm gonna have my clothes on. I don't know about all you, but what up, Shaolin in the hizzle? Yeah, we got a lot going on, but I'm dying to hear what this whole honorable mention you have for us is.
So, honorable mention that I have for you guys, you folks, you fine people, man. Let me turn my camera back on. So a few weeks ago, Joe Budden was on his show, Joe Budden of the Joe Budden podcast, and he proclaimed, much like Yee did once upon a time, but he qualified it, unlike Yee, who just said, hey, I really like the way Candace Owens thinks. Joe Budden came on his show, and he was like, man, I got to be honest, I really think Candace Owens is hilarious. And this was in response to Candace Owens roasting Ariana Grande for being a homewrecker. Right. Apparently, her shenanigans on the set of the Wicked play that she is now in, I believe she's playing the Good Witch. She might have booed up, rizzed up a certain someone that was in a committed relationship, even holding the baby.
Yes, she made a song about it. She made a song about it. She basically said, "I'm gonna fuck who I want, and you got to deal with it." Basically, in the
Yeah, I
song.
believe the song is called "And What."
Yeah,
And so or some shit like that. So Candace Owens, she's been on her anti-ho campaign.
because she gave a good, a good anti Taylor Swift rant a couple weeks ago. I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, no, she she's always putting in that work in the content creation space. And let me just qualify something for you guys, man. Here is something you need to understand. If you didn't grow up listening to a subculture type of music or a subculture genre, you might say, how could you endorse anything she says? Listen, when it comes to being on these mics right here, man, I will never take away that Candace Owens is one of the greatest to ever do it, man. She knows how to move the needle. And she went in on Ariana Grande, and that actually caught the attention of one Joseph Budden, and he said he would love to have her on the show. To which she responded in a Candace Owens fashion, like, because when Joe said he wanted to have her on, he's like, I really love her, man. I don't love her political views, but I would love when she's just being
Of
a normal.
course. Who wouldn't love to have her on?
He's like, when she's just being a normal girl, she's the most hilarious person on earth, right? So Candace Owens responded like, Joe Budden, you can't chicken out now. She's like, she actually said people ask her all the time why she isn't on more black media. And she's like, I'm basically blackballed.
Right.
People
they don't invite her.
People won't have her on. So I'm looking at Instagram. Shout out to Poetic Flacco of the No Jumper Show on his personal IG. I support Poetic Flacco, man. I really am getting Poetic Flacco's back right now with a lot of the stuff he's doing. You got to take it to these hood. Fuck it. You got to take it to these hood niggas sometimes, man, and just let them know, like, you're only as strong as when we're in the ghetto. You can't control my thought process when I'm expressing myself. But Poetic Flacco just put up a picture. Joe Budden and Candace Owens have an interview on the way. And here we have a picture of Candace on the left, looking nice, and a picture of her and Joe Budden in his studio.
Yo, that's a win for civilization.
That's a W right there, man. That's a W, man.
Well, what it is, it's actually funny. I think the pendulum is swinging back, that I think society got so woke that at a certain point it like hit its maximum of that, and it's starting to swing back, where now we're able to have we're starting to be able to have conversations with people we disagree with again.
Right. I mean, that, and isn't that the whole point, man? Isn't that the point of what college used to be when you were a poli-sci major or a philosophy major, coming up against opposing worldviews, thus shaping your worldview, honing you,
right?
Helping you really to understand why you think the way that you think.
Imagine how boring political science classes are nowadays, that everyone is left and agrees with each other. That would be the worst class.
So, I delve into many different spaces on the internet, man. I have to, right? It is a part of me just needing to know and wanting to know. I always have expressed on the show, man, if there's no one else to represent the opposition side, I will take their point of view. Doesn't mean I necessarily agree with it. Just means I'm not going to let anyone misquote what they're actually saying, right? So I find myself in spaces like in the Black revolutionary space a lot, listening to content over there, which can be nauseating at some times because there are people who are just, they're not the sharpest thinkers. But I do appreciate the brothers and sisters who are at the upper threshold of that camp, right? But to see Candace Owens on the Joe Budden show, right? Why do you think you don't deserve to be challenged? Bro, I was listening to Amanda Seales the other day, and this is something that has impacted me personally, man. She talked about how she's created this space for herself where, and it's the foundation of her belief structure is, I live in a space where I know I cannot be friends with someone that doesn't believe X, Y, and Z. So I've removed them from my life. And I'm just like, what a sad thing.
That is the saddest thing.
Oh, okay, let's say you can't be friends with them. So will you not engage people? Is the cutoff point that they don't agree with you politically? And that's it? That's it? There's no room for discourse. There's no room in this society for opposing views.
I wouldn't even say, here's what it is. I certainly like discourse. I like the debate. I like the talk. I like that sort of thing. However, I also don't even think it's necessarily required. And here's what I'm saying. Whatever happened to just tolerating that people just have different beliefs? You know, there used to be a time where, like, the conservative family down the road, they would be fine with that their neighbor. They're like, you know, our neighbor is a rabid Democrat. And they're like, okay, let's just not talk about it when we're in their presence. And then they just move on with their lives.
Right. And well,
And people are just triggered by the idea that somebody else could have a different opinion.
my issue with that, the word tolerance of someone else's view has always been just this, right? I don't want to tolerate anyone's views, man. I can accept your position, right? I can really accept your position, and we can agree that we have different positions. But let's not pretend that our positions aren't going to butt heads every once in a while. Here's what I would much rather, and I'm not telling anyone else how to live their life, man. What if you just accept that you might be close to someone that doesn't believe the same shit as you?
Right. Right.
Just
no,
accept
absolutely.
It. Now, I'm not saying you got to be in close proximity.
Hey, Rogue.
Hey, what's up, Rogue? I'm not saying you got to be in close proximity with, you know, Nazis and shit like that. Yeah, I can say excommunicado.
Well, obviously, I think there is I think there absolutely is a there's definitely a line, and that is funny.
Yeah, there's a line.
You know those guys, the villains from World War II.
Yeah.
That sometimes it's so funny. I call it the N-word, and you're like, what N-word? And I'm like, the villains from World War II, and you're like, they were villains in World War II. Like,
I never said that.
We're talking different things. But ultimately, obviously there has to be a threshold, and obviously I crossed the line. It's true. I'm fine with all sorts of people. I got MAGA friends. I got rabid communist friends. I don't hang out with no Nazis, but
Yo, crazy enough, man, when I was getting my life together in California in Narcotics Anonymous, I was in close proximity with a lot of quote unquote woods. If you don't know what that means, I don't have the time to explain it to you. Go look it up. And a lot of these woods they were maybe allegedly members of the Aryan Nation when they were in prison. But a lot of that stuff you can't be deprogrammed from right away. So I would go to meetings with a lot of Southsiders, a lot of Crips, a lot of Bloods, and you'll find that I categorize Crips, Bloods, Nazis, and Mexican or Latino gangs all in the same fucking pot. They're all the same to me, bro. Every last one of them is preaching some form of separation or division or hate.
Right, they're all nationalists, basically.
I'm not ashamed to say this, man. At one point, because I won't scrub it from the internet, to mock those people, I actually took a picture once at a NA event where I threw up the Zeke Howe. And you know why I did that? Because I was like, that's how moronic this shit is. That's how moronic your viewpoint is. Because my stance is always this, Mantis. A bad idea needs to be publicly refuted and mocked. It needs to be publicly refuted. I'm not kicking anyone out my life. You say some way out shit, and I'm just like, oh
yeah, if they say it in my presence, it needs to be mocked. Absolutely. But like I said, I believe it or not, Mantis doesn't look for fights. What it is we go on our show, and I state my mind, you state your mind, and for some reason that triggers some people. And they're coming at me. I wasn't coming at anybody, right?
Bro, listen to me, man. I, in all honesty, do not feel mentally or in an intellectual way intimidated by a lot of people I come across. I'm not an arrogant man. I just know that my positions are well thought out. And before we step into the arena of debate, you should make sure your positions because I'm not going to pull any punches. Just because you're Muslim doesn't mean that I won't challenge you the same way you challenge Christianity. And that's the thing. People get really comfortable in that. You could be a Hotep spiritualist, and I'm just like, well, what gives you the right to challenge Christendom and not me? But back to Candace Owens and Joe Budden. This is why this is so important, man. You know, when the whole Kanye thing was going on and Candace Owens went on the Breakfast Club or Hot 97, I don't know, one of these freaking places, man. I always wanted it to be in a place where it's like, yo, why don't you just let her talk? Why don't you interact with her points? What's the issue?
I mean, I don't know what's wrong with these people.
These people.
Yeah, these people. Checking in with the chat real quick. Lo says Ariana Grande is still around. Man, she is stronger than ever before.
And she's still mutated.
Oh, she's mutated into a freak, man. She's stealing everybody's boyfriends. She's telling people to go to hell, and she's making money, man. She's one of the top pop stars right now. Like, absolutely. Yeah. Lo says, have you ever noticed that there's an inverse relationship to the talent of a singer and the raunchiness of their lyrics? I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
You don't have to go super sexy, like sex wise, like sex driven, unless you're a no talent hack, which explains what's her face's what's her face's and her latest album, the trans girl, what's her name, Kim Petras.
I don't even know who the hell that is.
So Kim Petras, so check this out. Kim Petras is famous because she's the trans pop star. That's pretty much why she's famous. She had one huge hit, which was her and Nicki Minaj doing like a remix of a song, right? Some hit from the past. Are you better off alone? Remember that?
Oh yeah.
So she's the one on that. And so she just came out with an album that is so raunchy and so hypersexual, no radio station will play it.
Right.
Because all she talks about is really gross shit.
Yeah, it's definitely a way to see the lack of talent in the person, right? Even on this mic, man, you can tell when someone's not talented when all their entire content is based on the fact that they have to say the next egregious thing. They have to say the next crazy thing. You won't get any of that at Fanboy. We say the most common crazy thing.
Yeah, common egregious shit. Rogue Radio saying hi. We already said hi, but we love you so much. Thank you for stopping in. Also in the chat, Lo says you got to do what you got to do to survive prison. Yo, I don't know what I'm going to do the day I get locked up because there are no mulatto gangs that I know of.
You guys are not represented well.
No. It's a hard knock life for us mixos.
It is a hard knock life. Do you have any honorable mentions, my brother?
Yo, D says, hola, what up?
Hola, ¿cómo está?
Ariana is only with that theater kid so she can be in the new Wicked movie. I think it's possible, 100%.
Rogue. 100%.
So I'm not gonna play the video because we've already got a bunch of videos that I think we got to play tonight. But my honorable mention is I'm gonna back up words from Anthony Brian Logan, which I think people are giving him flack for.
Wait, say that again. It might have been my internet, but I missed all of that.
Oh, I'm going to back up some words that Anthony Brian Logan had said.
Okay.
In a video where people were calling him so check out what happened. Over the weekend, Cam Newton went back to the hood. And he was at a thing where they're teaching, a sports conference for kids. He's showing them moves.
7v7. Yeah.
And he gets jumped.
Yeah.
He gets jumped. And no, I'm not talking about the students in the building. These were adults. These are adult brothers getting on him. And Anthony Brian Logan is watching the video and he loses. You could tell he's getting mad. And he says straight up, that's why when you make your money, you need to leave the hood. and I was like, what? And he says, you can't be there. And he's like, you can give back to the community from a distance, but you cannot be there because there's always some knucklehead who's going to hate on you and is going to try to bring you down.
100%. I mean, Jam Master Jay, man, obviously you're up to speed on this.
Look at all these revelations of all these old murders coming out.
Third partner in Run DMC being killed by his close friend and his godson. They just got convicted, man, proving that hating ass motherfuckers are everywhere.
Yo, you know which leads me to believe? I actually believe that a lot of these cases were solved technically years ago, and they're only just getting around to actually doing it. For whatever reason, there's this trend of solving these old cases of dead rappers or black, mysterious killings of black men. And all of a sudden, I don't know why the trend is now, but all of a sudden they're now deciding to solve it. I'm like, you've been known this. You've known this for years.
Been known, man. The Cam Newton thing is weird, right? Because the way it's being reported on by certain groups is that Cam Newton caught that work. But from the footage I saw, 3 motherfuckers were assaulting him.
They couldn't bring him down.
They couldn't get a clean hit off. And Cam Newton's like,
he was standing his ground. It's true. They're pushing him around, but he didn't fall. He didn't break. I mean, they should have done way better. They should have done way better before the cop came.
Yeah, 3 of you definitely should have got that work in, right?
Lo says, if I was thrown into a max security prison, I'd be tempted to throw up a Heil if it would prevent my backside from ending up like the Lincoln Tunnel.
Ooh, airy.
Oh, so early in the episode and we're getting loose. D says, since the movie is out, I thought she would have dumped him, but I guess she's keeping him around for a little longer. Yeah, so she can be in the sequel.
Yeah.
Lowe says she has to keep up a little bit of an appearance. I guess, yeah, she can't look like she's just eating men up and tossing them in the corner. Lowe says Ice-T tried to move back to his neighborhood and quickly left.
As he should, man. The unfortunate part, people always wonder why money doesn't pour back into the community. Well, it's because certain things like this happen, right? The bottom line is, man, like if I'm investing in the community, why do I need to worry about violence towards me? Why do I need to worry about your violence?
Right. And so, I have to say that I'm going to paraphrase it right now, but it's from The People versus O.J. Simpson. And I love it when he's talking about, he's talking to his lawyers, and his lawyers are like, well, people think you sold out. You became white after you got rich. And he says, I came from a really bad situation. And when I found out I could run, I realized I could run out of the hood. And in the process of running from the hood, brothers grabbed onto my hoodie, and they thought I could run fast enough to drag them out. And that wasn't going to work out. And he's like, and I knew if I let them keep hanging on, I would never get out of there. So I had to just knock them off and keep running.
Yeah, the problem with that was OJ really leaned into it, apparently, allegedly, right? So
he became ultra white.
There were some things he said during the whole when they came to pick him up in Brentwood in California.
I think he even said, I think his actual quote from him is, I'm not black, I'm OJ.
Yeah. Well, that's one of many. There was another quote when they were picking him up for the actual murders, and there were a bunch of people outside of Brentwood, which is a very exclusive, well-to-do or neighborhood.
Yeah, Brentwood is like one of the highest, really rich neighborhood.
At the time, it was very exclusive, and OJ is quoted. I don't know if he actually said this, but this is what that documentary said, the 20 and 20, whatever that shit was. What are all these N-words? Well, I'm sorry, who let all these N-words into Brentwood?
Yes. I loved watching. Oh my God, that's funny. I do love that. What I love about the series is it's really well researched, right. And I learned a bunch of stuff. Like for instance, when the jury was going to go see his house, they get to take a trip to his house. Right. Johnny Cochran took all his African art out of his own house and he decorated it in OJ's house because OJ's house was too white looking.
Yeah.
He wanted it to look like he had some sort of semblance of connection with his black roots.
You know what else I loved about that documentary, and I tried to explain to my friends we were watching with. I was like, what you folks don't understand is that at the time, Johnny Cochran, who had one point prosecuted a case where he was not allowed to speak, right? He had to speak to his white counterpart, and his white counterpart would relay his arguments. Oh, I'm like, this is a man that took his one chance that he saw to put the system on trial.
Right. You know what? I know this is not the subject of tonight's episode, but I will say I love Johnny Cochran. May he rest in peace. He died in like the early 2000s of a brain tumor, but he had a great legacy. But that man was true to his people, to his community. He gave back to his community. And it's true. People are like, oh, he's famous for defending this murderer. He was trying to put the police, the racist cops, on trial. And back in those days, people didn't do that.
100%.
And the cops who arrested OJ, I'm not saying they did frame him, but I'm saying they are racists who framed other people. And all he did was point that out.
Bro, we're talking about the LAPD, man. Rampart Division.
Right, okay. Because every time I try to defend Johnny Cochran, people look at me like I'm the devil.
You know why? It's because there's this overlapping situation that happens, man. And I hope I'm articulating this well, where people's interest and their prejudice and their own trigger points, to use a term of today, become a part of the conversation. And it's like, hey, man, can we believe that OJ is a murderer? And can we believe that OJ is a murderer that came up against some racist cops in his situation, right? Are you telling me it's so far-fetched to believe that there wasn't there was a literal racist documented?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, that dude was hyper. The guy was actually literally a Nazi. He collected like Nazi stuff.
Let's rewind back to the Candace Owens Joe Budden thing, because I meant to ask you this question, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you hoping happens in this interview, man? What are you looking forward to in this type of conversation?
I'm going to tell you, I'm looking forward to nothing but two people not shilling for each other and just being real. I know. Here's what it is. I think they're both gonna have, and it's funny. I think they're both gonna have a little like crush on each other because they're like, oh, it's Joe Budden, the greatest podcaster, and it's like, oh, it's Candace Owen, the greatest black content creator, arguably,
Right.
and so they're gonna have this whole thing. They're just so infamous. But I do want them to be real, and at no point do I want her to lower herself. I don't want her to be less than 100 when it comes to her issues, and I don't want him to tone it down because he respects his guest.
I agree with that, man, because in all honesty, the infamous Dr. Umar Johnson interview, which has never made it in its entirety to YouTube, Umar Johnson is a controversial figure. I would say that
To say the least.
I would say that if you haven't grown up in that type of tradition, Umar might shock you, but I was a little disappointed that Joe never released that entire interview, or if he did, I apologize, on YouTube, right? It's behind a paywall on Patreon. And they got into some deep conversation with it. It was actually one of Joe Budden's co-chairs that went at Umar in regards to interracial dating. And it got really heated. It got really heated at one point.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the problem with, sorry, I'm going to use this word, nationalism from any race, from any one particular race,
Right.
because usually it starts to stray toward, we have to be pure. And what is pure?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a white grandfather, does that exempt you from being black? You know what I'm saying? Like,
You're out.
You're out. I'm sorry.
You're out. You're out.
Look, Lowe says, what would OJ have had to done to not sell out and be black?
So there is a line of selling out, right? So what you have to do to not sell out is to do some things like not. Let me choose my words carefully here, right? I think a clear form of selling out is when you disparage your race for no other reason to appease another race. That is clearly selling out.
Oh, right. Like saying what's up with all these N-words to a group of white dudes. Or like here's another thing. I love it that People versus OJ does this. They show an argument between the jurors, because they kept making them watch Seinfeld.
Right.
And finally somebody's just like, and they come from Blockbuster, and because it's back in the day, there's no streaming. And like one of the black guys stands up, he's like, can you bring us some Martin or some In Living Color? What's wrong with you? And they're like, who wants to watch that? And there becomes this split, this divide. Right. And then the people running it, like the cops are like, I don't understand. Do black people not like Seinfeld? And they're like, no. And then it cuts to a scene of OJ talking about how much he loves Seinfeld.
Well, see, that's kind of like low-hanging fruit, man.
Right. Obviously, it's stupid. You can watch any show you want. I get it.
No. I'm not even disagreeing with you, man. It's just like that's just clever editing at that point, man.
Yeah.
To answer Lowe's question, I think another thing when I say not to disparage your own race, like it's another thing. So no one's above reproach, right? No one's above critique, but it's when you use harsh critique for no apparent reason, like no apparent reason. Like it's like you're hanging out with your white friends, you're all eating popcorn, and you're like, well, at least we could all afford our popcorn. That's wild. Why would you say something
like out of nowhere? Shaolin says, holy shit, did the Seinfeld thing actually happen? Yeah, apparently it did. But like, I mean, that's funny, right? That they had a fight over that.
Bro, I gotta be honest with you, man. Back in the Haven days, man, we've eaten at that diner before it was popularized by Seinfeld. You know which diner I'm talking about.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
It's on like
over in Tom's, Tom's restaurant.
Yeah, it's like just right by Columbia and shit like that, man. I was never a big Seinfeld fan when I was younger. Like I knew the staple moments and shit like that. I've watched it more to go to sleep now. I don't know if you're at that point in your age where it's like I put shit on to go to bed.
Yes, I did. But here's what it is. I put it, reruns, things I've seen before.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I have watched The Rise of Skywalker, like 100 times, but it's always to go to bed. I'll put on Rise and I'll pass out.
Right.
Hopefully, the trick is to hopefully fall asleep before they say the line, somehow Palpatine has returned.
Yeah, I love that there was no build up for that. Like, hey, by the way.
Yeah, they're like, by the way, off screen, you didn't see it. But this incredibly significant, crazy thing that hasn't been explained, it happened. Thanks, guys. Good work. Good work. But Lowe says OJ 100% deserves the same trial and same defense as anyone, guilty or not. I absolutely agree.
100%.
And so I'm actually watching LA Law. I'm watching like old 80s shows now a lot. Like a lot of sitcoms, a lot of things. LA Law is really great, but I just saw this one episode where this guy and his girlfriend's a lawyer too. His girlfriend and his friends are on his case because he's defending a rapist, and he's like he's shredding on the stand up the accuser.
Right.
Like he has all these things on her, and he's doing it, and all these other lawyers are giving this man shit for doing his job.
Right.
And he's like, that man deserves the same defense as anyone. So I'm giving him the same defense.
It's interesting. I was having a conversation with a coworker the other day about bail reform, and they had a very interesting take in regards to this, right? In regards
They're probably a criminal. Which one of these delinquents were you talking to?
They had a very interesting take, which was, I thought it was a good take. Hell, Matt, welcome in, brother.
Matt, what up?
If a millionaire can afford to post bond for being, for alleged murder, and a poor man can't afford to post that same bond, there's a problem. We're not even talking about if they're guilty yet. And they boiled down bail to that point. And I was like, actually, that's a very good point, man. That's a very good point. Because the fact of the matter is, a poor man can't afford the bond that's going to be set against him. And he would be fighting on two fronts. He'd be fighting the fact that he can't fight bail, that he can't make bail, and he has to fight his case. So that's one thing I think is very.
Here's what it is. Obviously, here's the concept of bail. Here's the thing. I defend the concept of bail, but I admit that it doesn't fully make sense. Like, for instance, the worse the crime, the higher the bail. However, aren't you innocent until proven guilty? So why am I being penalized for how bad the crime I'm being accused of is? So if I'm an innocent man and you accuse me of murder, they're going to say $3 million for bail? That's not fair.
Well, here's the thing about bail, man. At that point, you're in police custody. There's many layers to this. So you're in police custody. You're transported over to the jail system, and that's the inherent issue. But I do have to ask a favor of all 9 of you in here. If you haven't already, please hit that like button right now. Just take a quick second. Hit the like button. Let's get the likes up to at least 9. I appreciate you.
But I will tell you this. It is the reason why it's a money thing is to prevent flight risk. You want to come back for your money. And I will say this. Right. Thank God for a bail bondsman, because, guys, I know a lot of you don't know this, but at least in New York State it's like this. You only pay 10% of it.
True.
And you're going to get that money. You're going to get everything except maybe $250 for processing back.
But here's the problem.
If you show up for
if you're poor and 10% of your bond is $100,000 and you can't even make that, right? And to your point, innocent into you presume innocent into
so
guilty.
you're accused of murder and you're really innocent. You're screwed. You're totally screwed.
You're not making that. But anyway, let me tell you what I'm telling you. What I want from the Candace Owens thing.
Wait, no, real quick, super quick fact. I don't know if we've ever talked about it. Mindless, stupid fact. But I don't know if they've changed the law since. But in New York City in the 70s, the reason pimps wore a lot of gold medallion and rings was that at least in the 70s, they could take your stack of cash, but they can't take your jewelry. And so what it is if you were arrested, you would have your friend claim your jewelry, go pawn it, and that would be your bail.
Right.
And that's why they in the 70s the cliche is that pimps wore gold and stuff.
Well, here's the crazy thing, man. In places like Georgia, they can seize those funds nowadays. So whatever.
That's another fucked up thing, seizing of funds.
Yeah, whatever was in your pockets used to be able to just go to your books, right? It would just go to your books, and that's what you would use for commissary and shit like that. But in a place like Georgia, they could say, no, this is actually money that might have been gained during the act of a crime. And get this, the city or the state now can claim those funds.
This is crazy. And my whole argument is, they're like, you could have earned this selling your drugs. My argument is, prove it, motherfucker. You need to prove that I did something, right? Last time I checked, this was a miracle. Right? Oh my God! Don't get me started, son. Don't get me started.
Yo,
Dragon Lady, welcome in.
Welcome in, Dragon Lady. Long time no see. Welcome in, Dragon Lady. So what I'm hoping for from this interview, man, just like you, man, I'm hoping for a conversation, man, and I'm hoping for some
conversation that matters.
Boom. I'm hoping for some memorable moments, man. I really hope that Candace shows up with her A game, that Joe shows up with the A game, and all his co-chairs show up with their A game. Queen's Flip. That's the fellow that's in the elevated chair on the Joe Budden podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He asked for at least 3-week preparation for this potential interview.
So they're going in for a debate, it sounds like.
Yeah, people want Candace Owens is not someone you just sit down next to, right? If you're gonna refute her points, you got to be able to refute them thoroughly.
And actually, that's a good point, because even on the Daily Wire, I don't know what it's called, but there's some segment where they all sit around, several of them, and they are debating. They're going at each other
straight up. And I would have to say that, unfortunately, I've seen Candace handle them all.
Yes, she handles the shit out of these guys. Oh yeah, they're not great debaters, and so
like she's held her ground and handled them all, man. Are you ready to get into the show proper? And did you have any more honorable mentions?
No, because I do want to get into it, because I've got a great one for you guys today. Is it all right if I take the first story?
Go for it, my brother.
So, guys, I want to talk about Philip McGraw. Do you know who that is?
Hell no. Sounds like
he's otherwise known as Dr. Philip McGraw, or AKA Dr. Phil, the guy who is responsible for boring the birth of Cash Me Outside Girl, right? So he has been under so much fire the last 2 weeks. We're going to do 2 clips from him. Okay. But like, for those who don't know, Dr. Phil McGraw, Dr. Phil, started out on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And what it was is, anytime she needed a psychologist, he was that psychologist. And he's really good with the camera. He says the most intelligent things off the top. Like, he doesn't have to rehearse. He's just really good. So he was known for television. She was like, yes, this is my guy. And then eventually they gave him his own show. And now at this point, I think he has his own cable channel. I think that's how powerful.
And you know what? Dr. Phil is not a psychologist, nor is he
well, no, he was at one point, but then he never read up. After he became a TV star, he never read up the schooling or the licensing.
Dr. Phil is a fixer. So this is how he and Oprah actually met each other. Back when Oprah was being sued in regards to some statements she made about moo cows, beef, Dr. Phil was on her team to help her win that case.
Oh, nice. I did not know that.
Yes,
it's actually, it sounds vaguely familiar, but I didn't know the details.
Yeah, let's see what Dr. Phil's got.
Yeah. Wait, real quick. Lo says, I watched Bernie Mac. Probably doesn't count. Yeah, Lo, since
Bernie Mac is a shit.
You love Bernie Mac, you don't like Seinfeld, you might possibly be black.
Yeah.
The purpose of bail is to provide incentive to show up to court. Yeah. That's what I hit. I'm a pimp out then, just in case. Well, I don't know if the laws are still like that.
Pimp down.
What? Oh, what?
Pimp down, man. Pimp down.
He said pimp out.
No, but pimp down is a reference.
Oh, right. Okay, but I was just reading his. I was reading his thing. Hi, Dragon Lady. Welcome in, says D. We all love you. You guys are awesome. Oh, Elise Luna, how are you? Welcome to the stream. The Cigar Lounge segment.
That's in regards to Candace Owens and the Daily Wire.
Oh, okay, that's what it's called. Can't wait to watch this. Not because I want to see the guy get eaten, but because I want to see Candace be fed.
Feed the beast. Feed the beast.
Hate the name? The name. Phil is such a stupid. Oh, Phil, yes, Phil. And I think that's the funny part about why it's called Dr. Phil, and they focus on that because it's like it's one of those names, right? It's absolutely one of those names. He says Dr. Phil is based, and so he just went on The View, and we are going to play that right now. So, and for those who don't know, The View is a group of old ladies who were once like at least B-level celebrities. I think Whoopi's their biggest celebrity, right?
100%. And Barbara was probably their biggest celebrity.
Oh, right, and she started it, right? But
Yeah.
Barbara Walters. And so they just have a lot of very hardcore leftist opinions being,
Yeah.
they're almost a talking a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party.
Unapologetically, like I don't think I've ever heard them give a real critique of the Democratic Party in any meaningful way.
Right.
Left-leaning people.
If anything, I would say yes, they're never based. they're never based. But so here's what it is: we are watching. Not only are we watching the clip from his presence on The View, but we're watching a D-Day crowbar. For those who don't know, that's Geeks and Gamers. Talk about it because there's something I want to talk about that he says as well. So let's do this.
Are you saying no school children died of COVID?
I'm saying it was the safest group. They were the less vulnerable group, and they suffered and will suffer more from the mismanagement of COVID than they will from the exposure to COVID. And that's not an opinion, that's a fact.
Whoa, look at this.
We don't even have time to talk it out now, man.
Dr. Bass.
Phil went on The View today and basically triggered all of them in a massive and glorious way. I mean, they were so upset, okay? They were so upset by this because Dr. Phil had a really level-headed and common sense take on COVID, and he's had common sense takes on immigration and what's going on in the world today, and they really, really got upset. Dr. Phil was on with Jesse Waters on Fox News. Now, look, I don't know a lot about Dr. Phil. I've watched Dr. Phil clips over the years. I don't know if Dr. Phil is someone you're going to consider based, or I don't think he's going to be like flying a MAGA flag anytime soon. But what I do know about Dr. Phil is that he has pissed off the left-wing lunatics with his latest take.
And because we're so afraid of making everybody else uncomfortable, we're making ourselves uncomfortable. You went on to The View today.
Oh, love
you
that
talked
show.
a little bit about COVID and
Pimp
that
my ride.
effect of the lockdowns on children. Maybe people were uncomfortable. Let's listen.
They're trying to save kids' lives. Remember, we know a lot of folks who died during this. So it wasn't, people weren't laying
Not
around
school
eating
children.
bond, but, well, you know what? We're lucky. Maybe we're lucky they didn't, because we kept them out of the places that they could be sick, because no one wanted to believe we had an issue.
Are you saying no school children died of COVID?
I'm saying it was the safest group. They were
The classic "Are you saying?" The classic "Are you saying?" Who was
Right.
that was interviewing Jordan B. Peterson? So you're saying, so you're
Right, and you say
so
the-
you're saying, so you're
And
saying,
what
so
you
you're
say what they're
so
saying
you're
is something ridiculous.
There was a whole
Right.
like montage of that, if I'm not mistaken. So you're saying, so they could try to basically give you the position that they want to screech about. So you're saying.
the less vulnerable group, and they suffered and will suffer more from the mismanagement of COVID than they will from the exposure to COVID. And that's not an opinion, that's a fact.
All right, so one of the best parts about the book is you talk about the need.
And the interesting thing is and I wish they wouldn't have cut that on Fox News, but like the audience, the View audience clapped after he says this.
Matt
They
Cat just said
clapped.
that. He says, "I
That's
love how the
crazy.
audience turned on them and
They
clapped."
clapped after he said that.
Mismanagement of COVID than they will from the exposure to COVID. And that's not an opinion, that's a fact.
All right, so one of the best parts about the book is you talk about the need to rely on facts and stress facts. And why do you think some of those women on The View, who we love dearly, they wanted to talk about the narrative of the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, here's the thing. You can't just make up facts, and that's what's happening right now. I think we've got.
And by the way, I think Steve, you're probably loving what he's saying right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You do not get your own set of facts, right? You don't get alternative facts. You don't get your own alternative.
Yes. You there?
Don't get your own alternative truth. Your
Right.
experience is your experience, but your experience is not fact. In fact, allow me to prove that, man. How we experience things might be different. But if there is something orbiting over us, recording the entire event, it's like, well, you experienced this one way, but here are the facts. At 2 p.m., Mantis ate your egg sandwich. Like, that happened. Period, bro. You don't get to say
Why has it got to be food crime? Why do I have to be guilty of a food crime?
because you're guilty of food crimes back in the day, man. I once upon a time, folks, bought an entire thing of expensive nuggets, or at least expensive nuggets by
He's bringing up the nuggets again. Everyone has one food crime against me. I was once at I was at Pena and Nana's house.
Everyone has a food crime, and you're going to refute everyone's.
They're all bullshit. So here's what I'm saying. We order a pizza. There's 4 of us, 8 slices, right? His mouse of a wife, Anna, love her dearly, has 1 slice. It's been hours. I go over. I have a 3rd slice. When she finally is ready to have a slice, she's like, "Who ate my slice?" And I'm like, "I did. You weren't moving."
That's a food crime.
That's not a food crime. I'm a food hero. Let's see what's going on with these fact finders.
You ate my nuggets.
Well,
You know you did, you
the
piece of
fringe.
shit.
We've got these fringe factions that are trying to rewrite history, rewrite science.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to bring that back real
biology,
quick. 'Cause
Run it back.
Just pretend that facts aren't facts. Actions. See, you can't just make up facts, and that's what's happening right now. I think we've got. Well, I call them the tyranny of the fringe. We've got these fringe factions that are trying to rewrite history, rewrite science, rewrite biology, just pretend that facts aren't facts because they don't want them to be. But
This
you know
is
what?
a new
They
art
are.
for
And we've
him,
got
by the
facts
way.
that have been there
Yeah.
for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and you can't just change them because you don't want them to be the truth. The fact of the matter is that we had a pandemic here. Children were not very vulnerable to that. Now, we want to protect everyone, right? But children were not very vulnerable to that. But what they were vulnerable to was disrupting their lives.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I have to ask.
That was
Wait,
perfect timing.
Perfect, Matt. Yeah, because Matt just said, Mantis, you were in the right with that pizza story. Thank you.
Bro, he might be in the right on that, man, but he was most certainly not in the right for what he did to me. And if he allows me to tell the story, he knows he's not right about it.
You can tell the story. You can tell the story.
Yo, here's the truth of the matter, right? There was a delicatessen, a deli by anyone's standards in New York, right? Or if maybe you grew up outside of New York. I purchased some nuggets, microwavable, but they were top notch for us back in the day. I purchased them. They were not for group consumption. There was no agreed.
I thought it was a party pack. I thought it was
No,
a party
it wasn't a party pack. I bought them with my money. Right? I fell asleep, but I put the nuggets I purchased in the freezer. That piece of shit right above me said, "Oh, I thought you didn't want them." I'm like, "What?" I bought them. They're mine. You didn't even put in $2.
I would like. Here's what I'm saying. We were at a crash house. We had a crash house where like nobody knew anything. We're all sleeping I'm sleeping on the floor.
No, we knew stuff. We knew stuff. We knew the rule of the bust down, all that shit. Don't you fucking lie. Don't you fucking lie.
Yo, Bex, Bex.
What up, Bex?
Usagi taught me. Is she? You're talking about Usagi Yojimbo?
What?
Usagi Yojimbo from Ninja Turtles.
Oh,
He's the bunny rabbit samurai. Is that yo Bex? Are you referencing something cool right now? No way. Is she referencing something cool right now?
What's going on, Bex?
What up, Bex? You snooze, you lose, says D. Thank you. I'm faster than all these fools. There we go.
Now, if I were to pull Blick out on you for those fucking $8.99 nuggets, would you have held that pace? I had given serious thought to busting a cap in you. You're like, well, I thought these were for everyone. I'm like, what do you mean you thought they were for everyone? When you buy Chinese food, is that for everyone? Or
that's different. Leftover rules is different.
They were leftover. They were unopened.
They're unopened and in the freezer. That's different. That's clearly different. Lowe says it's a bit cowardly for Dr. Film to be hollering now. He bent the knee to the far progressive mob when it was at its loudest.
Very true, man. And that has to do with having Matt Walsh on and the bearded person who we should refer to as the bearded lady. Do you remember this infamous episode of Dr. Phil when Matt Walsh?
Was that the episode? Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he is the nuggler. That's what he is, Shaolin. He's the nuggler.
The nuggler. Well, okay, so he was on that episode. Wow. And now that people are getting tired of it, and it's safer to be more vocal, he's changing his tune. And I think that's true. I think that's true about a lot of us, a lot of people. I was never blatantly. I don't think during the pandemic I was ever like, "This is a sham." I didn't go up to people, rip their mask off, and go, "You're gonna be fine. This is a scam-demic." I wasn't that hardcore because I was in it. I didn't know what was happening. And to be honest, I was scared.
What? Let's be honest. Let's all acknowledge one thing, right? When it first hit and it made its way from mid Manhattan up to New Rochelle, and they shut down New Rochelle on the East Coast experience, right? When I say East Coast, I'm talking about New York. Like when they shut down New Rochelle, I was like, oh, this shit's serious. There was a point when this was happening where we all thought this could be the end.
Mm.
I remember Mantis, as I have shared with you, man, multiple times. It's going to Sam's Club. And they all made us get into lines to get our rations. And I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
This is weird.
Marxist shit.
This is weird.
Marxist shit. Oh, yeah, it was weird. It was weird times for everyone. So I think it was hard to speak up. And I do see what Lo was saying.
Because if you go back to our earliest fanboy episodes, I was like, I don't know, bro. Shit seems like a scam to me. And you fucking got mad at me. I'm like, seems like a fucking scam to me, bro.
Sounds like something I would do because I'm a flip flopper. I'm a flip flopper. Today, it's cool to say it's a scam-demic. Back in the day, I was like, you better vaccine up.
Oh, shout out to the scam-demic, though. Most of you in here who came from Spoon, that's when we were at our height, man. When people were scared they were going to die in their homes, they can bank.
Yo, that's why I liked the scandemic, because it was good for streaming.
Oh, absolutely.
People were tipping us. People were looking for entertainment, connection. We were giving them connection.
Yeah,
I sell connection. I'm like a prostitute, a male prostitute.
I sell the potential of something happening. Oh, now, that's what a prostitute would say.
By the way, having nothing to do with this topic right now, I saw the most ridiculous TikTok where a guy called the cops on a masseuse for trying to give him a happy ending. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get back into it.
Yeah, Jack Shacks.
The Nuggler. Everyone loving the Nuggler. The Nuggler is crazy. Yes, you couldn't speak your price because the mob would come at you. Yes, your piece or whatever. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And so it's only now where we're safe to be able to say stuff.
Right.
I'm glad he's being vocal. Don't get me wrong, but he needs to own his wishy-washy history. Yes, Lo, I agree. D says, I learned a new word today. Sorry, the Nuggler or Scamdemic? Scamdemic and Nuggler.
Yo, honestly, folks, that no matter what Mantis may say on his own personal experience was the closest he ever came to death. I seriously thought about popping a cap in your ass, man. I seriously thought about it. I was like, I'm going to kill this motherfucker. And I don't mean in a cute way. I don't mean in a hip-hop way. I was like, can I get away with it? Type of way.
I am here. I am here to test people's boundaries. That is why God sent me.
No, I'm here to test people's boundaries. You're
here to test our patience.
You're here to fucking devour your best friend's nuggets.
Yeah, I said Spoon, that fat girl, that app with the fat girl. Yo, by the way, Matt.
Yo, Matt, you know what's really funny? When Mantis really reveals who that fat girl is, it'll be the day he won't be on the internet anymore.
But the funniest thing is, what was it? Yo, she came into one of our streams once, and Matt interacted with her for a second. He was like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And that's the girl, but you couldn't tell because she has an anime character on her thing, and she was just coming in to say hi. But she has actually come into at least one of these streams before.
3 by my count.
Oh, Jesus. Let's see what.
Let it rock.
Question, because I don't know the answer to the question. When did Dr. Phil become Dr. Based Phil? I
like calling him Dr. Based.
So I've seen clips of him over the years. I've seen some of the memes. I've seen some of the funny moments. I've had no reason to dislike Dr. Phil, but is this something new that he's really started to kind of realize everything? That's just a question I have because I don't know. When did this start happening? Because this is really crazy. Now, I think that this kind of just shows you the craziness of the world. I think this shows you the craziness of the world and society, and there's always a breaking point, and we are so far over the breaking point of where we should be right now that people that you wouldn't think are speaking up are now speaking up, and that's what it seems like we're having with Dr. Phil right
We
here.
know that we had the highest levels of anxiety, depression, and loneliness, as well as suicidal ideation and suicidal attempts, than that in 08 and
Pause it.
09 that we've seen since they.
So we got to quantify something for a second. And for my right-leaning friends, this is the weakest point of your argumentation. The reason the suicidal rates went up during what you would call the scandemic is because people literally thought the world was coming to an end.
Right.
And what more appropriate time to self-eliminate, right, than thinking the world.
Right. Opt out before tribulation happens. I dig
Right,
it. But
right.
he is pointing out that us doing the lockdown and scaring everybody is what caused that.
No, I don't disagree with that. I'm talking about the nuance point. You have to stop pretending as if though we just got to deal with the argument as it is, bro. People were scared, and whether or not they want to admit it, and whether you want to admit it, not you particular, Mantis. I'm saying you far right leaning, beautiful people. Everyone in the first 3 weeks thought shit was really cracking off. They did, bro. And I live in rural America, and I was like, this shit's getting bad. They're stealing water out of people's carts. It's getting bad.
So I'll tell you this. I live in the high suburbs, meaning it's the suburbs, but it's starting to become the country.
It's the low suburbs to me.
Yeah, I mean, you live in the fucking desert. No, you know what I'm saying? You actually live in the forest, deep forest, right? Like, he gets his water from a well.
The low suburb.
Yes.
I'm like to you what that one guy in the Game of Thrones said. No, we're the real North.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. We're Southern, right? And so, during the first couple weeks of the pandemic, I would, I'd go on walks during the day, and there's only like one day that I couldn't do my walk during the day, and I was like, I'll go at night. And normally, I didn't realize that normally when I walk, I hear something. I think it's silence, but it's the sound of a nearby highway and all this thing. However, when I went out that night, it was pure silence.
Yeah.
And I was walking, and I like to go through woods and do things, and I was so freaked out by the silence. I got totally scared, and I went home, and I literally went home and looked at my mother, and I said, "There's something evil out there." And she says, "What?" I was like, "I don't understand. It was just silent. It was just silent." Because you don't realize that there's always modern noises in the background.
There's ambient noises and all the shit that comes in between it. Mantis, can I ask you a question? How many times did you have the vid yourself?
I'm gonna say 2. I suspect a third time, but never proven.
I think no, I don't think. I had it 5 times.
I
And
remember.
the only time it was actually really the first 3 times I was like, you're like, yo, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm good. That 4th time, we don't need to air this out, but Mantis and I had a private conversation where you had to cancel Fanboy. And I think I admitted to you in like delirium because I was so sick. I'm like, I think I'm gonna die, nigga. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. What happened is he doesn't remember it, but he admitted, he said, "Mantis, you are the superior podcaster.
I did not say that.
You are amazing. And no matter what my will says, you need to legally contest it because I'm really leaving it all to you." And I said, I will honor your final wishes, brother.
What actually happened, I was like, Mantis, here's a list of 18 names.
Oh, he did give me that.
I'm like, these people think that now that I'm dying, they're going to get away with their crimes against humanity. Humanity being me. You have to make sure they don't get away with it.
So it sounds crazy, and I'm sure YouTube will be like, they promote violence. I think everyone should have a list like that. A list where they're like, I cannot die. I can't die before these people. Absolutely. And then you give it to your loved ones and you're like, kill them for me. And I think
don't give it to your loved ones. Give it to your boys. Mantis has
that's what I meant.
Do not
You
let
forget, I don't have a family. My loved ones are my boys.
Amen. Amen. I'm like, do not let these people outlive me. Now, in regards to Dr. Phil and his new arc change, I do understand what you're saying, right? His position may not have been well thought out, or he was dealing with the information he had at the time. I'm not mad at Dr. Phil about that, because actually, this is not the only arc he's going on. Did you know that he went on an what would be quantified as an
On Rogan, right?
Yes.
Elise Luna, are you in the house? He says, when Mantis leaves the internet, this is Matt. Is that when the fat girl becomes his girl? No, she will never be my girl. Because remember, I'm her uncle, apparently. So, for those not in the know, I'm not her uncle. She calls me uncle. It's weird. It's weird. Isolation does generally lead to higher levels of depression. Of course it does.
Absolutely.
Basically, one of his arguments.
I was making $200 a week from Spoon and Twitch.
Right?
$200 extra on top of what I was getting from my job. I mean, thank you for your donations. Continue. What were you saying?
So, Lo, you don't understand. Because I'm a walker and I'm not a driver, what it is instead of taking paths, and paths are good, don't get me wrong, and roads are good. Once you realize you can walk through people's like properties, their backyards, or whatever, you can make beelines through shit, and you can traverse all this area that cars can't go. So my actual natural path of like travel is just going I'm zigzagging through woods, and by lakes, and just scenic routes. However, it gets me there quicker than if I took a road. It's just one of my weird quirks. I do it at all hours. My sister thinks I'm going to get killed because sometimes I do it like 2 a.m. and I'm like, I'm going to go through this dark woods to get home.
Yeah,
she thinks that.
I got to give you a shout out, man. You managed not to get the vid one of the times that we hung out, man. We hung out to go see Handyman, the Handyman remake soft reboot. And that was when I got the vid bad, bro. I was like down.
Right, you got it right after. And honestly, I think the movie was so bad that it killed the germs in me.
Bro, honestly, there are people who defend that movie, but nevertheless, we can do a Handyman, and we have done a Handyman video before. Continue on with the video.
Usagi says, you lost me at Walk in the Woods. Lo says, haven't had it. Okay. He says, I actually like it. Got to work from home the whole time. Didn't have to deal with coworkers. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, it was beautiful shit.
You become a remote worker. If you're new to that, that's amazing. I liked it because Spoon was popping, streaming was popping, content creation was popping.
It was popping. And you know what else is great about that, man? I just want to touch on the remote shit. Sorry to cut you off, bro. I watched a great 1.5-hour video on this where I watched them belabor a point, but it was so impactful that I didn't mind that they said the same thing over and over again for 1.5 hours. That time, in that period, corporations were put on notice where people were like, hey, you know what, man? I'm working from home. This job really doesn't mean anything to me. I'm going to show up for my designated time. I'm going to leave at my designated time. And it was an amazing time, man. There were a few corporations that had to shut down their actual corporate campus. Not because they had been done dirty, because they realized they're like, why are we paying a lease on this building if we can have the same level of commitment from our employees? That's what really does it in, right? Your job is in more danger, not from the overhead of you being paid for it. It's from the overhead of the building that you guys occupy. And some businesses, the smarter ones, augmented their style of operation. They were like, we don't need a physical building. If I can use Teams and have my entire team together, why do I need a physical location? It was amazing. Amazing time, bro.
Matt Cat says, fat girl may be calling you uncle now, but she'll soon be calling you daddy.
She did. She called him daddy. She called him daddy one night. I was there. It was disgusting.
Lo says, no vaccine, no COVID. I'm living proof it's a scamdemic. Ooh.
Wait, does that mean I'm a living proof that it's not a scandemic? I had that shit 5 times. Hit it. Be right back.
I have a theory, but it gets really racist.
Is this about me being black?
Well, sort of.
Okay. Hit it. I'll be right back.
So we all know that it was made in the Wuhan lab. I remember people used to say that was a conspiracy theory. We all know it's true now.
The Kung
Everybody
flu.
does. Yeah, the Kung flu is the Kung flu. It wasn't from a The most racist thing in the world is the liberals take. They're like, it's from one of those meat markets where they eat dogs and bats. It wasn't from that. It was clearly modified to kill people. It was a weapon. It was a weapon designed from this thing and from the Wuhan lab. And so, what was I talking about?
Well, wait, let me ask you a question. It being weaponized, a lot of people thought it was an external threat. I thought it was an internal population control threat.
So here's what I'm saying. It's made in China.
Yeah.
It's designed. It's designer. And nowadays they can actually design illnesses to affect only certain people with certain genetic characteristics. And so I'll give you a point out. And no, I'm sorry, Lo.
You're about to validate my blackness right now.
Yes,
I love where you're going. I love where you're going.
what it is that I don't know if you guys know Lo, but Lo has blonde hair, blue eyed. Like Hitler would love you, Lo. No offense. And
do it.
No effects from COVID, right? However, you are getting hit all the time, lethal shit. You were asked out multiple times. You act like it's just once. I'm telling you, there were times I was like really worried for you. And what I'm saying is, I think the Chinese designed it to take out certain people or to affect them worse.
So I agree with your statement up until the point where I realized that the targeted areas in China and the way they treat people who get COVID in China, allegedly, but we've all seen the footage of that one guy getting dragged out of his house who was the palest of Chinese men. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Up and they kicked the door down and dragged him out. I do the furthest I'm going to go with it is population control.
Oh, absolutely. Thinning the herd. You got to always thin the herd in any situation.
But see, what they didn't know about Big Dream was I did meth back in the day. There's no weapon designed against me that can destroy me.
Right, exactly. And so I'll say, these types of illnesses, and once again, YouTube's going to hate me. It's designed to cull the weak. The weak fell prey to this, and if anyone has lost someone to COVID, I'm so sorry. I know one or two people who have, but we're not trying to make light of it. But I am saying it was designed by man. It was a designer illness, and it was designed to cull the weak. It's very obvious of that.
Well, you don't have to go any further than the only thing that Chris Cuomo is guilty of in all the allegations is the way he handled the situation with the elderly in New York, our beloved elders.
Right.
It's bad stuff, bro. It's bad stuff. I'll be right back. Go ahead.
Yeah. Lo says Hitler would have had a wet dream over me. Yep, absolutely. Dragon Lady says, yes, you were kind of on the right track. I think it's true, Bra says Yosagi taught me. Absolutely. By the way, I love your anime character Yosagi taught me. I love that right there. But we're gonna finish this thing, but we're also gonna do Phil's other video when he was on Joe Rogan, because he also said some controversial stuff, and we'll check in to see how we felt about that. You know what? I'm gonna play the video.
Started keeping records. That just continued to build, and then COVID hit, which caused it to spike. COVID didn't cause it. It started back in 08 and 09, and it kind of correlated with the smartphone dropping, where kids stopped living their own lives and started watching others live their lives. But they knew that when they shut the schools down. You pull out the support system, and as well as pulling out the support system, when you pull out the support system, you disrupt their educational development, their social development, their emotional development, and you also take children that have been subject to emotional abuse and sexual molestation, and you take them away from the mandated reporters who can keep an eye on them, and referrals to Department of Child and Family Services.
Okay, so that's the one part that I don't fully agree with him on, and I understand maybe he has numbers to reflect it, but what he is ultimately shilling for right now is public schools, and you know how I feel about public schools.
You love them.
I love wiping my balls on a public school, but I'm saying any smart person who loves their children is going to find a way. I know it's hard to homeschool their kid or find some sort of private institution that actually carries your actual beliefs. Because I got to say, schools nowadays, public ones, on the name of like atheistic, human, secular nonsense, they are teaching your kids some crazy ass things. It is not cool. And his argument right now is he's also saying, he's like, these poor kids, they were taken away from mandatory reporters. Mandatory reporters are there to narc on parents and try to get kids taken away from their homes. And I'm not saying a kid shouldn't ever be taken home from their home. I'm just saying I feel the state does it too often.
Right.
Because of these mandatory reporters. So in schools, there's things like the social worker and stuff, or you know, the guidance counselor, and they're mandatory reporters. The moment they see anything wrong, they call it. And so there's an episode of Atlanta about this, where, you know, there's a mom and she comes to get her son. His son was acting a fool. He's junior high school age.
Right.
And she makes him dance. She makes him dance in front of his classmates to embarrass him. She's mad. She's like, you're gonna whip it and you're gonna nay, and she's doing all this shit to him. And they take away the son over that. And it shows how horrible things can get when you just willy-nilly take a child from their home.
Right.
Right. So I'm probably on a rant right now. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
You know, but let's
Hit it. We might make it through a whole video.
Dropped 40, 50, 60% across the nation.
So somebody in the chat said Dr. Phil isn't based at all. This could be a grift. Well, Dr. Phil does have a book that he is promoting right now. So again, you kind of hear like every time these guys have a book to promote or a movie to promote or a show to promote or a project to promote. So again, I'm speaking as someone.
The reason why I believe it's serious is because if he was just simply promoting the thing, he would have stayed a leftist the way he was before. You know, the Oprah crowd. He would have stayed on that whole thing. If he's taking a risk by alienating the View, by saying these things, by appearing on Joe Rogan. He's taking a risk. His whole fan base could leave him. They might get so offended. So I don't think it's grift.
I don't think it's a grift either, but I don't think it's not a grift for like some altruistic reasons, man. I think he's probably just saying what he believed from the get-go.
Right, and he wasn't a man enough before to say it.
Yeah.
That doesn't know a lot about Dr. Phil. Outside of, like I said, I think the last time I remember seeing anything from Dr. Phil was when the Cash Me Outside girl was starting to go viral from his show. Like, I don't watch
and she
him
cooked
at
him,
all.
bro.
Yeah,
I
if you
want
listen
to
to
know
what he's
she
saying and everything he's saying
absolutely
makes
cooked him in the
sense.
video.
And he's obviously an
Yeah.
educated man. So that is something that needs to be noted.
We do. We sent them home and locked them up with their abusers, so nobody could watch them. And what did they say when they shut the schools down? They said, "Well, you know, we're doing the best we can with what we know." No, you're not. You knew better, and you knew it at the time, and you didn't have a plan to reopen those schools. And now those kids are suffering. Will they ever close the gap? Who knows? Pediatric epidemiologists.
Yo, a joke that goes around my Sunday school kids is they say Gen Z kids can't read. And I'm like, what is this? And they all make jokes. They're like, oh, because that little kid probably can't read. I was like, why do you say this? And they're like, because of COVID, because they were locked away and they never learned to read.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
It's amazing when kids can pick
I
up.
tell you, it could cost millions of years of life lost for this generation.
Yeah, I don't think they'll ever get it back. You talk about the tyranny of the fringe, and in my book, Get It Together, Tales from the Liberal Fringe, we discuss some of these fringe people and why
This
they
guy
act the
is
way they
such
do.
a panderer, man.
Yeah.
How do you defeat or
It's the
confront
perfect
the
Fox
fringe
News
without letting them take
talking
over
head.
the rest of Western society?
Well, here's the thing. They identify an enemy, and then they focus on that enemy. Most of the people in America don't have or want to have an enemy, so they're not as focused and they're not as organized. We need to decide that we want to start solving problems instead of winning arguments. And that's one of the principles I talk about in the book. And it's real easy to tell whether you're talking to somebody that wants to win an argument, you got right fighters just wanting to yak, or you've got people that are saying, look, let's come together and come up with a solution that will begin to make changes for the better. And
Hey, Dr. Phil, if I was sitting there talking to you, do you know what I would say? Oh, I agree, Dr. Phil. Let's come together and talk about the solution. Do you know what the solution is, Dr. Phil? Trump 2024. You willing to join me on the Trump?
There you go.
There you go. And that's
There
why
you go.
that's why I wanted him on this. Instead of just watching the Dr. Phil thing, I wanted to show you D-Day Cobra. Because here's the thing. I love Geeks and Gamers. Or here's what I say. I used to love Geeks and Gamers. I love, and I have a lot of respect for D-Day Cobra. He's done a lot of things. However, it's funny that he was just criticizing Dr. Phil for shilling his own book. But meanwhile, this man cannot go through a stream without shilling for Donald Trump.
Well, it comes down to what Donald Trump represents for him, man. And I don't know if he believes in Donald Trump and his policies so much as what he believes Donald Trump can do for him.
He represents the new America.
I'm just not bought into the point of, okay, let me just put it this way, man. In an honest intellectual debate, man, I would ask this guy, the owner proprietor of Geeks and Gamers, what is the foundation of your belief system? Is it solely tied to what Donald Trump would do, or do you have something that you ground this whole thing in? If you don't, man, stop pretending like Donald Trump is the arbiter of what's true and right. And we know that that's not his character.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He does act like he's like literally he just said the answer is not. Here's what I'm saying. I might vote for Donald Trump. I just might.
Kill this man!
Yeah, but you know what it is? I do not lie to myself and say he's the answer to all my problems. He's not the answer to all my problems. He's going to give me one or two things that I want. And that's it.
Here's the bottom line, man. I do believe in voting your interest, man. But if you expect the rest of the nation to vote the same exact interest, then that means that Donald Trump should be able to correlate and line up to the interests of everyone else. Now, we are seeing a spike in Donald Trump's acceptance from Black and brown Latino male voters. We're not seeing that from the female voters. So what's the chasm?
You know my theory.
What's your theory?
So, men have ruled the world for centuries, if not millennium, if not for whatever's higher than a millennium.
And it's going great. I agree with you.
Well, it was going great until we gave women the right to speak and vote. No, what I'm saying is we did it, but we all did it. You realize the honor codes. Look at the honor code of Japan or China or Western civilization. What it is there was like men ruled and they kind of let women talk, and they were they talk to their husbands, and then the husbands would be like, sure thing, sweetie. And then they'd go do manly things, right?
Right.
And so, however, in the new age of egalitarianness and the internet and all this stuff, we now have a bunch of triggered women. I said it. I'm sorry to piss you off. Triggered women who cannot deal. And I noticed that the biggest arguments against Donald Trump is how distasteful he is. Women don't like that he's a loudmouth. Right. And that's the thing that's triggering people of him. It has nothing to do with his policies, his behavior, his look, the fact that he's orange, the fact that he's old. It's all meaningless. The thing that people focus on is that women are triggered by him.
So allow me for a second. I agree with you, but allow me for a second to represent the other side of this conversation, which is Donald Trump is able to charismatically speak to the masses. This is something that I hear people talk about all the time. He speaks to me. Well, bro, if he doesn't do an effective job of speaking to the women, that means that Donald Trump is doing something incorrectly. He's not doing a good job of it. He's not buying them into the very ancient Roman concept of democracy, right? Back in the day in Rome, someone would stand up who was looking to garner favor from his constituents,
Right.
and they would make hand gestures. And they would
Right,
make
right. He
arguments.
doesn't play this game. He doesn't. He says it straight up. I don't play this game. I'm gonna just say
They
it.
would do some. So at the end of the day, man, like things like the affirmative action repeal in regards to college, in regards to abortion, right? It's easy for you and I to accept this, right? It's very easy for you and I to accept this. That doesn't change that it might be right. It is right. Not even might be right, right? What needs to happen is Donald Trump needs to make his message more palatable.
Oh my god,
those-
no, bro! Then he wouldn't be Trump. That's the whole. The whole point is his whole point is, I'm just gonna say whatever,
So, bro, let
and
me
you
ask you a
will
question.
deal with it.
Let me ask you a question. You guys put me on to the term, you and specifically subterfuge,
Mhm.
right? Remember when I was just like, no, there is right and there is wrong,
Right.
and there exists no space. And
I
still-
agree with you. Yes, subterfuge is definitely something a politician should be using. Right, I agree with
Right.
you. Here's what I'm saying. Yes, most politicians realize that they're like, I need. Yeah, subterfuge is the way to go. But that's Donald Trump refuses to do it.
He refuses to do it, but that's why I'm like, don't act surprised when you don't have women voters heading over to that side in masses like you have male voters. Don't be surprised by that. Stop pretending as if that's a culture war so much as it's a candidate issue, man.
He refuses to play into the thing people have done for millennium, which is when you have power, you pretend women's input is important. He has decided to say, fuck that shit.
Brother, stop pretending that Donald Trump has thought deeply about these subjects.
No, I'm not saying. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, I don't think it's planned out. He just happens to be somebody who's doing it, and I'm analyzing him from outside.
No,
Outside of his spirit. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for the clarification, man. And
Yeah,
that's
he doesn't know that he's doing that, but that's what he's doing.
And that's the issue right there, man. So when we get down to it, man, Donald Trump is headed in the right trajectory to win. Does not mean I agree with him. He has managed to pull male voters from minority groups over to him where the liberals have failed. Now, that's a much more interesting conversation. The liberals have leaned heavily into the black and brown woman vote.
Yeah, particularly black. They love black women. They're like black
They
women,
love
black women,
right? But the problem is Donald Trump may have just Kamehameha'd them when he was up on stand dealing with the Fanny shit. He was like, I am a man that's been falsely accused. I relate to black people. And I was like, holy shit.
Oh my god.
I was like, holy shit. I was like, holy shit. That's like a checkmate move, bro. Like, to say that alone.
and here's what I'm saying. Here's what it is. I do agree that I'm gonna stick to what we said before. He doesn't think this out. Maybe it's instinctive. He just knows how to work a room or something. But he like when he does something genius, I don't think he thinks that out. I think he does everything off the cuff.
So listen, I don't subscribe to astrology and witchcraft. Geminis are by nature not triggering, but I do think Geminis understand one thing that most people don't understand. They understand people. Geminis always understand people, and Donald Trump understands people.
Okay.
Like he understands who he's dealing with. A Gemini walks into a room and goes, okay, I get it. You're the loudmouth. You're the fisticuffs guy. I know how to deal with each one of you where you're at. Allow me to tell you everything you want to hear. Where you're at exactly. What we're hoping on is that Donald Trump delivers on some of that shit that's promised. Now, I got to ask you a question. Has he delivered on the promise? Now, I'll tell you where Donald Trump's policies have impacted me in a positive manner. When I was in the higher tax bracket, it impacted me very well.
Right.
It impacted me very well. When I was in a lower tax bracket, surprise, surprise, it impacted me very well.
Okay.
So me being my family, right? It impacted me very well. The issues that we experience as a family aren't the same as a lot of other people.
I'm just saying you have to vote for your own interests. It makes no sense to vote for other people's interests.
Listen, I'm going to get there. Let me cook, man. His policies impacted my family in spite of my wife's belief system very well. 2 different instances. I was like, well, what am I going to say? What am I going to say, bro? My interest would be, I want my family to continue to thrive. So why is Joe Rogan on the screen right now?
Let's find out.
Is not possible.
No, and it's accelerating and not decelerating yet. But I'm beginning to sense that there's a pushback.
Oh yeah,
because I think they've made a serious miscalculation. They pushed so hard and so long that they've started to wake up middle America to the point that they're saying, wait a minute, what? That's not okay. When they start rewriting history, when they start rewriting science, when they start trying to get the government to co-parent with your child, people start saying, okay, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't mind when you were running around here talking crazy, but now you're starting to get into my business. Like my grandmother used to say, now you've gone from preaching to meddling now.
Well, you know what's happening in
okay.
Canada, right? I mean,
What?
Canada has some pretty insane cases that are going on right now,
Right.
about gender transition from really young kids, and there's all this.
Yo,
pushback.
when are we gonna conquer Canada?
Tomorrow.
We just need to take them over, fire a couple shots. They'll bow down. They'll suck that dick, if you will. But I'm just saying we should. Here's what I'm saying: we should take Canada. We should make a killing off their lumber, right? They probably have oil up there too. But I'm just saying we should just use it. We could use Canadian people as target practice. Just think about it.
So moving right along. Can we get to my videos I've sent, man? I know we only have time. We only have time for one of them.
Okay, yeah. Which story do you want to get on?
The Andrew Tate one. That's my favorite one. Andrew Tate was pulled over recently.
Yeah, set everybody up, man.
Andrew Tate was pulled over recently after denouncing drugs and got pulled over merely hours after denouncing drugs. And we have a great video in regards to this, but it speaks to the same issue we were talking about in regards to the culture war, man. Is Andrew Tate actually a threat? I don't think he is. But do they want you to believe he's a threat? They absolutely want you to believe it. How could this mulatto man be such a threat to society as we understand it? How could he be such a threat that something like this would happen? And when Mantis cues it up, I also want to quantify the fact that, like Dr. Disrespect, we still don't have a reason why Andrew Tate's going through all this shit, man. Play that shit, man. You got to bring it back. Bring it back. Bring it back. Put the arrow on the left side of the screen so they can get the full. Andrew Tate pulled over by Romanian authorities for random drug tests 2 days after post against drugs. Now play the video.
No. In order for the sponge to take your saliva, okay? When this ball is blue, we can put it inside the droplets, okay? Did you understand?
Yep. Under my tongue, yes?
And under your tongue, on the cheeks, inside your cheeks, wherever you have saliva.
Rezultatul a fost negativ și în cazul fostului luptător. Tot în Ilfov.
That's him driving away free.
So what is the story?
So the story is here that Andrew Tate is so heavily monitored that he did an
that they decided to pull him over just be dicks.
And I found this interesting, man. I find it interesting in this sense, right? Mantis, do you think Andrew Tate is a threat to Western culture?
No, obviously not. No way. But I'm saying if I was Romanian, I'd hate him. Or actually, let me correct that. If I was Romanian authorities, I would hate him. And the reason why is before all of this started, he literally said in his videos he made fun of the Romanian police and government. And he was like, this place is so corrupt. All I have to do is bring a bag of money downtown and I'm good. And I honestly think that video, that statement in that one video made them say, let's go fuck with this dude.
So here's what happens in response to these type of things, right? The more you persecute, and I'm going to use that word, right? The more you persecute this guy for these claims and he gets off on it, it only emboldens the people that you should actually be worried about. His fans, man. Stop worrying about Donald Trump and worry about his supporters. Take a deep look at his supporters, man. You pull this guy over to drug test him after he made an anti-substance abuse claim to find out he was clean, has not broken any form of his house arrest or his probation. And it only shows people this. The powers that be will do anything to destroy you. It doesn't matter if Andrew Tate is innocent anymore. It only matters what people perceive this as. That the powers that be will do anything to destroy.
But what
you.
I'm saying is, why didn't they frame him?
What?
If I was going to fuck with this guy, I would frame him.
Because those days are over, motherfucker. Those days are over. The days where you can make Malcolm X look crazy and seem like a conspiratorial idiot, or the days where you can just blow out a hero. Now people can actually see in real time what happens. Right now, people can see in real time you drug tested the dude, and if he would have came up dirty, you'd be like, "Oh, Andrew Tate's a fucking hypocrite." But every time he comes up clean, that only emboldens his followers, man. They don't know how to play the game, brother. I'm sorry, Romania. You don't know how to play the game.
If I was the cop who pulled him over, I would have played the game excellently because I would have found dope on him. I would have been like, oh, a bag of heroin. And then
if you got a body cam on you.
You're thinking about American police. These guys are way more corrupt.
They have body cams on you. I'm not thinking about American police. I'm thinking about the evidence. They are doing this publicly to prove a point, and it's only disproving their point. The man's clean of this. I don't know if he's clean of everything else, but he's clean of this. So what does that do for his followers? What are you actually worried about, man? See, if the Catholics would have paid attention during the schism, they would not have attacked Luther. They'd be like, oh, his followers are the problem. Not Luther himself. We can discredit the man, but we're just going to make him seem like a martyr. So here he is posting a clean test. What did this do for the Romanian police? What did it do for the Romanian government? What does it do for the liberal TikTok? He's speeding away.
What did it do for our show? I was just saying, he got away from it.
You guys look like you can be related, man.
No, I'm just saying, like, I was hoping there'd be more spice to this one. Authorities, they find a bunch of shit on him. But you're right. They are targeting him.
What? We just talked about Dr. Phil for like an hour and a half. There was no spice to that. There's no spice to Dr. Phil. Fucking agreeing with the popular vote.
I'm saying this is a man who just got pulled over and got a drug test and then drove away. Nothing happened here.
Bro, literally. Oh, man, you're not woke enough, bro.
I'm not woke enough?
You're not woke enough. You're not aware of conspiracies and how they work, man.
I'm saying, if it was a real conspiracy, they would have arrested him. They didn't even arrest him. They give him a drug test and they let him go home.
But that's the point. He has Andrew Tate risen above the ability for the conspiracy.
There's no way anyone would be risen above.
Dr. Phil did. He literally switched sides.
Here's what I'm saying. I am willing to admit that there is a conspiracy against Andrew Tate, and I do believe he was pulled over in this incident unlawfully. I absolutely agree with that. However, I'm saying a good conspiracy, if they know what they're doing, they'll find a reason to bring him in.
How would you do that in the day of data freedom?
You don't think? Let me just ask. You hypothetically, you don't think in America with body cams, they still don't bring people in for fucking false shit that they didn't do or
all the time, the time until the body cam is released. And then
right, and I'm saying these guys, I think if they were doing their job, evil job.
What?
I mean, evil job. Let me say, evil job would have brought him in on some false shit.
Bro, here's the difference though, right? You forget that this man is wildly wealthy. So now you're dealing with two different things, right? Is Andrew Tate guilty, and do we have the ability to prosecute another person of means? This is the issue. Andrew Tate is the OJ of his day. I don't know if he beheaded a woman. I don't think he has, but he has enough.
I'm sure
money.
he has.
He has enough money to buck back against the system. And let me tell you why I enjoy this. When you're in the system and you have enough money to buck back, that makes me really happy because the system now has to deal with the rules that it's set up. Tate is a Child-Loving Fool by Ben Isaac.
Yo,
Welcome in, Ben Isaac.
Dragon Lady, have a good night. Thank you for stopping in.
Welcome in, Ben Isaac.
Tate trafficked my sister. Okay. But like what basically what I'm saying is
Ben Isaac, I want you to know I showed a huge level of restraint right there. But we always let trolls and troglodytes stay because
right.
You have feelings too.
That's not why we let them stay.
Why do we let them stay?
Because they entertain us. Right? And then also you have to question like what's going on with the life of somebody who comes to our stream to show us like oh wow, life is that bad, eh? Life is that bad. Okay, guy. But here's what I'm saying. I do believe there's going to be more I think more cops are going to pull him over. I think more things are going to happen. But I'm just saying in this particular incident, it could have gone really bad for him.
See, here's the thing though, right? You're looking at it from the vantage point of where you are economically, right? You and I are fucked in this situation, right? There could be all the body footage,
and somehow they're gonna find heroin in my car.
But
right?
At a certain point, does your money pass get you a pass, right? And this man's a millionaire. He's internationally known, widely known. It gets him out, man. I would think you would be happy about this, Mantis. He beat the system that tried to fuck you and me over, man.
Here's what I'm saying. Here's why you are right. Normally I would be happy, but here's the thing. I don't think he did beat the system. What I think is they're pretending to be incompetent, and tomorrow they're going to do a raid on his house or something. I'm telling you, the authorities, if they want to fuck you over, if they want to fuck you in the ass, don't censor me, YouTube. If they want to fuck you in the ass, they will. Am I right?
Like full on, no spit.
Just no spit, no lube. Going in dry, living the dream. But what I'm saying is this was a tame encounter. However, you know what it is? This might be them toying with him right now. Like probably they delayed him so they can plant drugs in his compound.
So wait, click on the next part of the video. Let's see what happens.
Oh wait.
Drugs at all costs. Me and my brother have never tried a drug in our life. I've never tried a drug. I've never tried weed. I've never tried cocaine. I've never even tried them. I've never even taken a steroid. Nothing. Nicotine, caffeine. Those are my drugs. I've never tried any other drugs. Stay away from drugs and stay away from people who do them.
Always.
Oh,
always.
wow.
If there's one thing me and Andrew have always said to everybody since we've ever been online, here I come. We have been anti-drugs.
I've never taken a drug in my life. I have never tried a single drug in my life ever. I've never even tried a puff of weed in my life ever. I've never tried a steroid. I've never tried a narcotic ever in my life ever.
Do you believe
once,
that?
Ever. Because I understood that there's two options. I don't like it, which means I never should have tried it, or I do like it, which means I never should have tried it. Either way, there is no possible benefit. There's no good outcome from me trying a narcotic.
Okay.
So I don't.
Okay, so I need to
But
quickly
obviously, they're not counting alcohol, right?
Right. Obviously, he doesn't, and I think most people don't. I dig that. I understand why. But you know what? This,
and I support it.
and once again, this brings a different argument up, because people don't understand that like the red pill, there are many positive aspects of the red pill.
Absolutely.
And
Tell
this
them
is
about
absolutely
it.
one.
I have to use the bathroom. Tell them about the
Okay.
positive portions of
But
the
I'm
race.
saying, think of all the young men who look to him, to turn to him, or are like, yo, totally, man, I look up to him. He's going to do all these things for me. If I live my life just like him, there's like a short, like not a full generation, but I'm saying there's a group, his own like side of the internet, who converted to Islam because he did. Just like there's a bunch of people who are going to be influenced by what he said. And they're going to say, you know what? I smoke weed. I do all these things. I'm going to stop because I want to be just like Andrew Tate. Now, obviously, I would not say don't be like Andrew. I would absolutely not say be like Andrew Tate. I would say you can do better, guys. You can have a better hero. But I find it interesting that what triggered this police raid was him doing this, and they're not finding it, and it's true. Although I do think he's exaggerating. I feel like there's no way he went through high school or college. I don't know if he went to college, but I'm saying he must have smoked some weed at some point in his life. I mean, come on. He's like, I've never had. You've never been at a party and someone just hands you some shit and you smoke it. I mean, that happens to me all the time.
Here's the thing about that, right? Considering, and I'm not saying that their father has was guilty of substance abuse, but given the tumultuous upbringing they had, I could see them being the type of straight edge dudes to be like, no, I'm good with whiskey and cigars. They strike me as those type of dudes, man.
Here's what I'm saying: as adults, I think. But I remember when you were young and stupid. I mean, maybe I'm just pointing out my weakness that like someone hands me something, I smoke.
You're
it.
a drug addict, and you turn to drugs. You're a drug addict, and now you want to make it seem like everyone else turned to it too.
Why'd you have to call me out, bro? That was so uncool. Here's what I think. I believe that this is the beginning of a major story for Andrew Tate. I don't think that this is the story yet. I think it's gonna blow up down the road because I think the cops are gonna keep going for him, and I think it's gonna get crazy.
Okay, well, I sent you another link.
Hold on. By the way, why does he keep living in Romania?
Yo, why did he live in Romania? Period, man. Like, this is what lends credence to him being a sex trafficker. It just seems like a place where it's wildly acceptable.
Absolutely, right? And it's just like, why are you living here? So you can have your cam girls, you steal their passports and force them to do shit. You corrupt cops. Why does he keep living? Here's what I'm saying. But after what they did to him, or maybe he's legally has to stay.
Well, legally he does have to stay, right? He can't abandon now. He can't jump ship. Up until recently, I still thought they were still under house arrest. To see him out driving about makes me think about the legitimacy of the case itself, right? But this could just be their legal system playing out,
But
right?
I hope he does the smart thing, and as soon as he's done with this house arrest shit, he can fucking just move away and go.
Let me
to
ask you a question, man. If Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan Tate are acquitted or found not guilty outright, two different things, by the way, of these charges, what does that do for that movement, for the hashtag Me Too movement that was so heavily oppressed against him? Like, if he's found not guilty of these things, do you think you're going to hear an apology?
Oh, come on. Are you serious right now? No one has ever been issued an apology ever. And so, my pet project is Governor Cuomo. And he was accused of all these horrible things. It got
not found guilty of one thing.
Not found guilty at absolutely of anything. No, people even said, some juries were like, we didn't believe this victim. She was like, whatever, crazy. And it really turns out that it's true. He was like trying to bang every chick in the office, but he had never like crossed any real lines. However, someone wanted him out as governor,
right,
and stuff. So it's just like, I don't know. It's totally fucked
is
up.
there a difference between forcing yourself upon someone and being a fornicator? That's the real question.
This is what is unclear about the Me Too movement. They want to get everyone. Apparently anyone who's ever had any type of sex is going to go down, basically.
So that brings us to Puff Daddy now being accused by a producer or male producer of fondling and diddling and
wait, did you send me a video?
No, because the video I would have sent you is It's too crazy.
Okay.
It's too crazy to send. But yeah, Puff Daddy is being accused by one of his male producers of me tooing him too.
Well, here's what I'm saying. For one, not surprised. Absolutely not surprised. Because I feel like P. Diddy, how did we not know, right? But oh wow, it's nuts.
Yeah, see, you see that pause you had there? It's the pause of, wow, this is actually crazy. We live in this world where we can commentate on this type of shit, man, and we can go back and forth on it. But there's a line you cross where you're just like, wow, now we're really drifting into, is the Illuminati real? Is all this shit real? The sex parties, the buck breaking.
It's funny. You think me becoming older would make me think, no, blah blah blah, yada yada, and be more tame. But honestly, the older I get, I realize that absolutely the Illuminati works is there, and someone is controlling everything.
Yeah.
Someone is control or profiting off of something, and they control it all, and they can, with a snap of a finger, destroy you, destroy your thoughts, destroy your ideas.
But is that the agreed upon? Like, is that the contract, right? Is the contract like, I can destroy you at any time, and you can destroy me at any time? And it's a matter of which one of us are in a better position.
Yeah, I think it's that. And however, obviously these rich motherfuckers are always in a better position than us.
So we were talking about on the recent episode of Live 365, which will go live this Thursday. We were talking about truth tellers, right? Jaguar Wright, the woman you would recognize as the black woman with the fade, talking about Puffy and all the shenanigans. And I brought up, we brought up the topic that most truth tellers in the hip hop realm are debunked and defunct rappers, right? People who did not actually reach their potential as rappers, and they're bitter, and now they're just like spilling tea. But then I was like, well, how does that quantify with a guy like 50 Cent? He was at the precipice of fame. And
but no, he made it in rap, I'd say.
Yeah, no, hear me out, bro. 50 Cent has been saying the same thing about these guys forever.
Oh, okay, but here's what I'm saying. He is a rapper first, and he hasn't become a professional conspiracy theorist. Because when you become a professional conspiracy theorist, shit is sad. Right?
Well, he's a rapper first, or is he just a thug where it's like, press me and see what happens?
No, he's a rapper who happens to be a thug. I don't know if that makes any sense.
So wait, do you think there's a distinction? Like, did 50 Cent cross over to that place where he had enough money on top of being a thug where it's like, I'm in the club. If I choose to expose you, you have to be willing to.
But you are right. People ignore him as him exposing. And however, I think that's true about to be honest, I think people who actually are able to expose, the Illuminati in the first place wants it exposed.
So you're saying that he gives them the ability to expose. So
yeah,
Cat
I don't think
Williams is not exposing anyone other than who they want exposed.
Absolutely. And so I would say, like, in politics, like, for instance, politics, when people are like, I'm whistleblowing, remember that wheelchair guy?
No.
So there's this conservative, this Republican guy who was just he was a war hero. He lost his legs or whatever, and then he's like, and then he runs for Senate or whatever, and he makes it. He's a senator. He's like, this is awesome. I love this. And suddenly he claims, or he says Washington is all sex parties and drugs. And when he does that, all the other senators give him a cold shoulder. Everyone's like, fuck you, you're an asshole. They don't talk to him. He doesn't get reelected. He has told us what is happening. Nobody gave a fuck.
Can I ask you a question? Santos, my man from wherever in New York.
Oh, he's your man? He's your boy? Are you back, Santos? George Santos.
Let me ask you a question. Was he a plant? Do you believe that the liberals successfully planted someone on their team?
I gotta say, I'm weak in the game because I didn't even think of that possibility, but that's brilliant.
Like, could he have been a long-term plant, man?
But remember, he was a drag queen in Brazil, and he had all these lies, and he said every lie in the world, including claiming he was Jewish, claiming he had money, went to schools, played volleyball. Who lies about playing volleyball? And
so here's the thing, my guy, man. Here's the thing in regards, I'm not big on the conspiracies, but I am big on being shady, right? I understand how shady people work, and I understand evil. When I look at a guy like 50 Cent, right? He's the type of guy that I don't think he really beat the system so much as he understood the system. And to really not be impacted by the system, you have to be able to fight against it. I think 50's the type of guy that's like, test my gangster. Let's see what happens. On many different levels, right? You want to send goons against me? I'll kill your goons. You want to send your social goons against me? I'll expose you. Period. 50 Cent went on a campaign against Lil Wayne that was one of the most diabolical campaigns I've ever seen in my entire life. But there are no consequences that lead me to believe one of two things. Either he is so deeply entrenched in the system that they can't get rid of him, like Donald Trump, right? Why could New York State never collect on their debt from Donald Trump prior to him being president? You grew up in New York. You grew up in New York as I did. He's owed the state money. Like, if you grew up there, you understand he's owed the state money for years.
Oh, wait, hold on. But for that's a rich person tactic. So apparently, here's what it is. Only
How
poor...
rich do you have to be rich for a rich person tactic?
Right. So I'll point this out. So poor people collect debt, and only poor people pay that debt back. And so I'm deadly serious. And so a tactic that companies, corporations, super rich guys do is they create a debt, and they constantly pay only the minimum to stay afloat. They're not trying to get rid of it. And their argument is, I can still be a rich pimp or whatever without actually losing money. And they are kind of right. If you're able to perpetuate that, then maybe you shouldn't pay back your debt. Only pay the minimum every month on your credit card if you're able to, right?
Right.
It's definitely a financial tactic. I don't understand it fully, but like only a poor person thinks, I'm going to work really hard this month to pay off my credit card. While Donald Trump and them don't do that.
Or an ethical person who doesn't understand the root of their ethics.
Right. No, I agree with that.
So, bro, had another great episode of Fanboy Modeling School. Did you have fun?
It was an amazing episode. Transfigurative, if you will.
What?
That's good. That's good. I was transformed.
Timer's back up.
Yo, I honestly think that like we have the greatest show ever.
I think so as well, man. Anything you want to promote?
Yo, guys. Yo, download Live 365. Hit us up. Check it out. It's amazing shit. I'm living the dream. I know you're all living the dream. What about you?
Living the dream, Live 365, mic check, interviews, commentary, having a good time.
Peace. Bitches.